The race to replace Marco Rubio in the United States Senate in Florida will shape up to be one of the most watched contests in our state, indeed nationwide. And one of those running is U.S. Representative Alan Grayson, now in his third term in Congress, representing two different districts in the Orlando area. The Democrat joining us today, and one of his opponents, Congressman Patrick Murphy, who represents St. Lucie, Martin, and parts of Palm Beach County, and North Palm Beach Attorney Pamela Keith. Sir, we thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a little bit about your personal and professional background before and once you came to Congress.
Well, sure. I grew up in New York, got a scholarship to Harvard, got 3 degrees from Harvard, college degree, a degree in government, and a degree as an attorney. Then after that, I went to work for 2 people you may have heard of, Justice Ginsburg and Justice Scalia. Yeah. That was quite a pair.
Anthony Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yes, that's right, exactly. And then after that, I was in private practice for 5 years, and I started a company that went public. I was the first president of IDT Corporation. That's a company that provided international service and turned out to be the largest provider of international telephone service to Hispanics in America. After that, I went back to private practice, prosecuted war profiteers in Iraq, was named by Taxpayers Against Fraud as their Lawyer of the Year, ran for Congress. I've been named the most effective member of Congress by Slate magazine. Business Insider, which is not exactly a friendly audience for a liberal Democrat like me, named me the most productive member of Congress. I've written more bills, passed more Grayson bills into law, and passed more amendments than any other member of Congress.
PolitiFact gave you a mostly true on that. They said it depended on how you looked what made it through the hopper, but said you have certainly been productive. Your most important issues as you see them in Congress.
Well, I'm happy about what we've already been able to accomplish. If you itemize your taxes, you got a Grayson tax break this year because I was able to extend the deduction for sales taxes, which was worth $2.5 billion for Floridians. Not an easy thing to do when there's only 7 states that benefit from that, 43 that don't. But that Grayson tax break meant that the average Floridian gained $100 on their taxes. That's one example of the kind of things I've been able to do. But what I really want to do is I really want to make the lives of our seniors better. I didn't mention this earlier, but for more than 20 years, I was an officer of the Alliance for Aging Research. I helped to found the organization, and we increased research on the causes and potential cures of aging by over 500%. Now, since I've been in Congress, I've done the continuation of that work. For instance, to give you an example, moved $40 million out of the military budget into the biomedical research budget, increased free tax advice for seniors by 50%, and reversed 43% of the GOP cuts for seniors. I also am a proponent of extending Medicare to cover your eyes, your ears, and your teeth. That Grayson bill took off and had 76 co-sponsors in 2 days, and also increasing Social Security.
And stands where now?
In committee. Okay. It's committee. But I haven't never seen a bill get 76 co-sponsors other than that bill in just 2 days.
Let's rapid fire on a few issues.
Right.
One is outside of Florida, but it made news late last week. The president, on advice from the State Department, coming out in opposition to the Keystone Pipeline, would have taken oil from the tar sands of Canada down to the Gulf Coast. It's become a symbol of the debate between environmentalists and those who advocate a more robust U.S. production of oil. Your take on that?
Well, first, it wasn't U.S. production. It was Canadian production that would have gone to other countries.
But U.S. jobs, they argued, and Gulf ports that would have helped process that and create jobs here.
30 U.S. jobs, 30. And at the price of what one scientist, a climate scientist, called game over for planet Earth. That's one of the dirtiest sources of carbon on the planet. And in fact, that's why the president decided it wasn't going to be good for us. It would have been good for the Koch brothers. It would have been good for the oil companies. But it would have been nothing for Americans. In fact, we wouldn't even have been allowed to tax it.
I listened to the president's comments. He said on both sides there were some inflated comments, including those who said it would end the climate as we knew it, and those who said it would be a big job changer. But bottom line, opposition to that. Iraq, you supported the Iraq nuke deal.
Well, before we move on, let me point out that the president made that decision on his best judgment. Patrick Murphy, my opponent, tried to take that decision away from him. He voted 6 times to force the president to license the Keystone Pipeline.
Let's talk about the Iraq nuclear deal. Both you and Mr. Murphy support that deal. There's been a lot of opposition in South Florida. Talk about why ultimately supported when many in our community, especially our Jewish community, have grave concerns about it.
Well, frankly, it's working. In fact, we've taken already a big step back from the nuclear brink. According to information that I saw, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon possibly by Hanukkah if we hadn't done this deal. Now, Iran will be at least a year away from nuclear weapon and possibly much more than that. They're already giving up their enriched uranium. They're already mothballing their centrifuges. So it's working, and the Israelis acknowledge that as well as everybody else.
Well, they may acknowledge it to some extent, but they're dead set against the deal, and the argument is we gave up too much, including the ability to have a robust, free ability to inspect military sites, and that we should have and could have gotten more out of the deal. That's the criticism from opponents.
We did not give that up. We did not give up the right to inspect military sites, and we'll see that as the deal unfolds.
One of the debates has been that at-will inspections of those military sites will be convoluted. You disagree?
Well, frankly, look, with our intelligence systems, we don't even need that. We know when they're violating these things before they know when they're violating these things. You know, we have an amazing ability to discern what is going on inside a country like Iran that far exceeds their own. So these inspections are important. I'm not going to discount them entirely, but the fact is they can't cheat without us knowing about it.
Oil drilling off of Florida, as a U.S. Senator, where would you stand on that? As a congressman, where have you stood?
I'm against it. I voted against it. Again, I have to point out Patrick Murphy voted for it, and I think that's disastrous for Florida. That would turn our beaches into tar pits.
Gun policy and gun freedoms against gun control, a raging debate in this country right now. Your take?
I'm part of the consensus that we need to do a better job in preventing gun violence. The overwhelming majority of NRA members now says that we need universal background checks. We need to simply make sure that criminals and the mentally ill do not get guns. What's so complicated about that?
Should we reinstate the ban on assault weapons?
Yes.
You do agree with that?
Yes. There's no reason to have weapons in the hands of individuals that only serve one purpose, which is to kill people quickly.
Should we end the gun show loophole?
Yes.